Leaders' questions. Deputy Mary Lou McDonald.
Margaret.
Rash.
Happy New Year to one and all. Taoiseach, today you take your first leaders' questions and your cabinet is mired in scandal. The two deputies at the centre of these scandals, former Minister Damien English and current Minister Pascal Donoghue, reportedly received a round of applause for their efforts at last night's meeting of the Fine Gael Parliamentary Party. Last week, Damien English was forced to resign as Minister because he lied on a housing planning application. Taoiseach, there are tens of thousands of people who were not able to build a one-off home because, unlike Deputy English, they were honest in filling out their forms. But he believed that those rules did not apply to him. And now, Minister Pascal Donoghue is embroiled in controversy for flouting election donation rules. There has been a concerted attempt by the Minister to trivialise the matter as an administrative error, but you and I know that it's far more serious than that. The truth is that in the 2016 general election, Minister Donoghue received a political donation from a businessman that he failed to declare and which was above the amount allowable by law. The businessman who provided the donation of postering service, Michael Stone, at that time headed the Construction Industry Federation, the organisation that represents developers. Mr. Stone was subsequently appointed by Fine Gael to the Land Development Agency outside of the normal process. So this demonstrates again how your politics works in Ireland. A cosy club culture that sees Fine Gael ministers slip seamlessly out of his best efforts. Minister Donoghue cannot escape the fact that he broke the rules by receiving this donation. And that is why he failed to correct his election return when the matter was brought to his attention as long ago as 2017. It's why he tried to convince members of the media that there was nothing to see here when questioned in November. It's why it took SIPO writing to the Minister last Friday for him to respond. And since then, the Minister has concocted a story that has changed so many times that its credibility lies in tatters. The Minister first claimed that the posters were erected at night, but images published by the Irish Independent show workers, I can only assume employees of Mr. Stone's, in their hard hats using the company van to put up the Minister's posters in broad daylight in the middle of their working day. And yet, Minister Donoghue wants everyone to believe that this wasn't an unlawful political donation to him from a construction company. Nobody believes that story because it's not true. Bhris Tara Donoghue na rialacha nuair a fuair sé an síontas seo, tá scéal dro creidse caithfidh sé an iarna a insint. Taoiseach, this smacks of cronyism, favours for insiders, and it's time for the Minister to come clean. So my questions are straightforward. Taoiseach, what involvement has Mr. Stone had in any other Fine Gael election campaigns, in any other campaigns for Pascal Donoghue? Can you explain why Mr. Stone was appointed by Fine Gael to the Land Development Agency outside of the normal processes? When did you first learn of this donation? Was it brought to your attention in November when the media first started asking questions? And do you accept, Taoiseach, that Minister Donoghue broke the rules when he received this donation?
Taoiseach Fáilte Rash. Taoiseach.
Fáilte Rash, Teachta agus and Happy New Year to everyone. Deputy McDonald, I believe Pascal Donoghue. I believe he's a man of integrity and a man of the highest standards. And he's somebody who I've known for a very long time. And I believe he's somebody who we can trust and somebody who I believe. And I think deep down everyone in this House knows that Pascal is a man of integrity and somebody who tells the truth. What happened here is that 6 years ago, a businessman who's a supporter of his paid 6 people less than €200 each to put up and take down posters. There was also the issue of a loan of a company van and the value of that was below the limit, above which you must declare it as a donation. He didn't know the full facts. He only knew the full facts himself until recently. And when he did know the full facts, he amended his return, as he explained on Sunday. He accepts that he should have done this much sooner, and he does concede a mistake in that regard and has apologised for it. We have a system of accountability when it comes to the Electoral Act and the Ethics Act here in Ireland, and it is now up to the Standards Commission to examine this complaint. It's not for us to make definitive judgments. We have the Standards Commission to do that, and they will look at it impartially and make a decision. This ultimately is a political chamber, a political place. We all know how votes will fall if there is a vote. That's why we have an independent commission, a Standards Commission, to take it out of the political cut and thrust. And that body will look at the information independently, and they will decide whether or not to carry out a preliminary inquiry. They haven't even decided that yet. And if they do decide to carry out a preliminary inquiry, that will happen. And only at that point will they decide whether it's appropriate to have a full investigation at all. And I think it is important that we respect the ethics legislation that we voted through in this House and allow the Standards Commission to do its work free from political interference, whether it's from government or from opposition. And I think, Deputy, it's wrong to cast aspersions on Michael Stone. I don't know Michael Stone. I have met him. He's the chairman of the North East Inner City Task Force. You know the work that he has done in your constituency to help improve the lives of people in the North East Inner City. And you know he does that without claiming any expenses or any salary or financial reward. You also know that he served on the board of the Land Development Agency and didn't take any expenses, didn't claim the allowance that could have been given to him, because he is genuinely somebody who wants to make the country a better place and believes in his community and wants to contribute. And that's why he's a supporter of Pascal Donoghue and no other reason, Deputy. You asked a question specifically of me. I only heard about this in the last couple of days. Couldn't tell you for sure whether it was Friday or Saturday, but only in the last couple of days. I had no prior knowledge of it before that point. The other questions that you ask, I think you'd have to ask to Minister Donoghue later today, and he is willing to answer questions.
Deputy McDonald.
Taoiseach, I'm not casting aspersions on anyone. I'm simply asking the logical, reasonable questions that arise from the recent turn of events. And the story, as told by Minister Donoghue, lacks any credibility whatsoever. The facts, as they have so far been established, are that this businessman, Mr. Stone, made this donation to the election campaign of Pascal Donoghue. The fact is that this donation was not declared. The fact is that it is only years and years later, when confronted with the letter from SIPO, that the Minister moves to clarify any matter. And I asked you what I think are reasonable questions as Head of Government and indeed the Leader of Fine Gael. Have you asked Minister Donoghue whether or not Mr. Stone had any involvement in any other of his election campaigns, including the 2020 election campaign? Did he assist with postering services then? And can I ask you again, Taoiseach, what is your view of a minister that flouts rules and laws like these?
Taoiseach.
My view is that we should allow the Standards Commission to decide whether or not an investigation is appropriate, and we should allow the Standards Commission to make a determination as to whether or not the rules were broken. This is a political chamber. We all know how this plays out. If we allow it to become a party political matter, it shouldn't be. We have ethics legislation, we have standards legislation. It's set up to be independent of this place, and that body should be allowed to do its work, in my view, and we shouldn't be so quick to rush to conclusions in that regard. I don't know all the details of Mr. Stone's support for Pascal Donoghue down the years. There's not a similar situation here in relation to a donation that you accepted, a €1,000 donation that you accepted from John Dail, your friend, somebody who would have been one of your cronies. On your declaration, Deputy, lodged in 2021, you claimed it was a personal donation to you. It has since been claimed by Deputy O'Reilly and by you and by others that it was a donation to Sinn Féin. Do you not now need to correct that declaration? Was it a donation to you, which you took and spent, was a donation to your party. There is a difference, Deputy.
Thank
I
you,
don't know if
Taoiseach.
there's a simple
The time is
complaint
up.
in about this, but somebody might consider doing that, because you've questions to answer in that regard too.
Now, Fulcher O'Tarash,